Well, hello and welcome to the Essendon Football Club's special live Q&A with Essendon Chairman David Evans and also Chief Executive Ian Robson. Of course, it's been a massive week for the Essendon Football Club last week, launching the club's flight plan to Melbourne Airport. Of course, the facility fundraiser has kicked off and David Evans is with us. David, how has the fundraising gone so far, and welcome?
Thanks, Justin. A great initiative too from the club. We're looking forward to this next half hour. Look, the fundraising is going okay. As I said at the release last week, the high net worth raise has gone ahead of schedule and it's going very, very well. The membership and supporter reaction's probably been a little slower than what we budgeted for. So can I appeal to all Bomber fans, and that's members and supporters, that if they can give a little bit to this project, we'd really appreciate it, and their chance to play their part in what is a critical part of the strategy for the future of the Essendon Football Club.
Okay, thanks David. Let's get straight into the questions. Via the club's website, Paul Herber is asking, in relation to the flight plan funding, have we considered creating a membership levy to help with the funding effort?
That's a good question, and this dominated discussion at board level for many months. We did some market research for our members, and 70% of the members said that they would prefer not to have a mandatory levy attached to their membership fees, so we decided against that. And we've obviously given the members the choice to make a decision whether they want to and their families want to or not. And so it was the members speaking that levy was inappropriate.
And we've asked for $5 million from our members and supporters to contribute to the overall project fund of $30 million. And Mark Dempsey is wondering what happens if we don't end up reaching that $5 million mark, and what will happen to the project if that doesn't get reached.
Well, I think the project's definitely going ahead. As Ian uses the term, the boat has left the pier, and so there's no turning back. But I think what our aim is to do is to go very hard at the fundraising, both across the state and federal government grants with the AFL, and also really drive fundraising hard amongst our supporters. Now, if we come up short, then we look at taking debt on. And the view is from the board is that we're not afraid of taking debt on. The club doesn't have any debt at the moment, so there is balance sheet capacity to do that. But we would prefer to have this fully funded through fundraising and state and AFL and federal government grants.
And the Essendon members and supporters simply can't underestimate how important this is for the football club and for the project.
Not at all, Justin. It's in the context of the rich and long history of our club. This is the single most important piece of, certainly in modern history, of critical infrastructure investment. If you go back to our history and moving to Windy Hill in 1922 from the old East Melbourne Railway Yards, this is as important, if not more, because with the arms race that David often talks about in the world of AFL, and we hear about the strong clubs, and this year we stepped up to the plate with our membership getting through 50,000. Now we've got to make sure we step up with our off-field facilities at a time when free agency is just around the corner, and we want to give every player who walks through the hallowed doors at Windy Hill a chance to deliver the success that we all crave.
Of course, any member or fan or supporter that wants to contribute can go to the Flight Plan website and do so. They can also contribute by a tax-deductible donation, as well as our in-flight rewards program, and every single donor will be recognised at the new facility, which I think is important, David.
They will be, and I think the important thing to acknowledge here is that we're keen for members to donate early. It just gives us a better picture of what we have to do over the next 12 months with the fundraising. So I'd encourage people to really think about what they can give. We understand economic conditions right now are getting a lot tougher, so we appreciate that, and we haven't chosen a great time to do this as far as fundraising goes, but there's normally never any good time to do it, and we feel that what we've put in front of our members is something that's so exciting that will really take our club into another step change in the next generation.
Okay, if you're watching at home and you'd like to send in a question, feel free to do so via the club's Twitter, tweet us, or also on the club's Facebook page, as well as via email or also SMS. All the details are on the Essendon website. We've just one come in from Graham Jenkins. Will it be possible to avoid corporate naming sponsorship of the new facility? He believes that corporate naming detracts from the club's history and identity.
Well, that's a romantic view of life, but $30 million is a lot of money we have to raise. So it's in our model to have this facility with corporate naming rights on it. So I think if the fundraising goes extremely well, then we think about it. But right now, it's very much a part of our plans.
And Peter Acker is wondering, will there be a high altitude training facility at the new facility?
Well, it's something we're looking at very closely. As I said at the press conference last week, our our focus now is to look abroad and not just look in amongst the AFL sphere of clubs, but also look at other codes overseas as to what works, what doesn't work. So James Hird and I know Simon Goodwin are going overseas in October to have a look at some other professional sporting codes to have a look at what might work. And altitude training is something that we've very much got on our agenda to look at.
Jack says he'll be making a small donation. He's wondering if we'll have signage on the roof out at the new facility at Melbourne Airport, because he thinks it'll be great for visitors to Melbourne to see the Essendon logo there when they fly into town. Is there any plans for that, Ian?
Look, I think that's one of the elements of the naming rights that we're certainly mindful of, and the imagery that can be associated with, as we captured last week, Justin, with David and the old biscuit bomber out at the airport was, I think, very, very powerful. And I think to reinforce what David said too about the reality of corporate partners, I think the Essendon family should be really comforted in the knowledge that we'll look for organisations that will partner with us that have a similar sort of value set and approach. It's we're not looking for partners who are here today, gone tomorrow. People are going to commit to the long term, and that's an important part, I think, of how we see this project, Justin. It is a long term commitment, with a lease that is nearly 90 years long, and here for generations of Essendon players and supporters to enjoy the rewards from.
I mentioned earlier about the ASF and also the in-flight rewards program. Stephen Cale's wondering what's the big difference between the two if you wanted to go down the path of donating through the ASF or going through the in-flight rewards directly to the club. What's the difference?
The ASF is a fantastic avenue of giving people recognition by way of a tax deduction. And the way that works, Justin, is that we're not able to offer any form of incentive for people in that space. They can go down the path, secure their deduction, which is triggered by their own level of discretionary income and the tax rates they pay. In reverse, if people are more minded because they are thinking about things like recognition, and there's a menu of options that are on the website, they lose the tax deductibility but perhaps gain the level of recognition that they and their family are more content with. So it's an individual choice, but at least we're delighted we can offer that choice.
Okay, now if you want to ask any questions outside of the boundaries of the new facility, you can also do that, and we've had a few of those via Facebook. This one perhaps for either of you. Rem Richards is wondering how much of an impact Bomber Thompson's had this year.
Go on, David.
I think Bomber's had an enormous impact. He's really supported James incredibly well. They get on very well. They're close friends, obviously teammates, played in a premiership together. So it was a very strong base to start this relationship, and it's only grown. And I think the impact Bomber's had on not just the players and the coaching group, but the whole club. For instance, he's got very involved in the plans for the new facility. So Bomber Thompson has had a very significant and material impact on our club this year.
Sean Williams is wondering in relation to membership. He says it took 5 months for his membership package to arrive, and he's wondering if the club's learnt their lesson from that. A second question from Sean, he wants to know whether or not our Baby Bomber membership is actually full, or whether or not we have been capping it. Ian, perhaps this one's for you.
Sean, yeah, it's a couple of good questions. In some respects, been victims of, if you like, a level of unprecedented growth. We had 12,000 new members join the club this year, Justin, which was just outstanding. To take us to a record membership of 50,200 odd, which is exactly the level that we need to be at if we're going to position ourselves alongside the West Coast and the Collingwoods and the Hawthorns in that upper echelon of club membership. And to be honest, Sean, we literally ran out of things and we had to reorder them. And sadly, because most of those fulfilment items are secure from offshore, they take months, not weeks. So we think we've improved a lot of our efficiency in the membership offering, Justin. It was a big focus of what we did a year ago, and David spoke about that at the AGM. So a lot of good work's been done, but we're very mindful that we have a lot of good work to continue in the future. And the really important message now, and I'm not too sure how long Sean's been a member, is that all of those new members stick with the club in the years to follow, because just as their donations are important for the facility, we need people to renew that membership and continue to grow the club.
Absolutely. And David, back on the new facility, Stephen's wondering if there's any risk of fumes from the airplanes hurting the players, and what are we doing about the wind factor out at Melbourne Airport?
Well, there was a lot of work done in and around the environment, around the plot of land that we've got. We took soil tests, we took wind tests, so the climate has been surveyed over many, many years. I'll take the wind question first. well, first of all, there's a lot of a natural buffer. There's a lot of trees around this plot of land, and the prevailing wind will be blocked by a 3-storey building. So, you know, I'm not suggesting that that'll cope with all the elements of the weather, but certainly the homework we've done and the design phase is well and truly coping with the work that we've done on the wind. What was the first part of the question?
The first part of the question was the fumes
Oh,
from
the
the
fumes.
flames.
Yeah. Well, we actually looked at the EPA as well, that some of the testing we did there, and this is actually a fair way away from the actual runway. So I don't think there'll be an issue there at all.
Nimi Sarig's wondering how long will it take for the renovation to finish. Perhaps if we could get an update on the timeline and exactly when we think certain elements of the project will be completed.
Okay, well the first key date is late November, where we hope we get the plans back from the federal government. And then the next date will be turning the first lot of soil, which we think will probably be first week of December. And the aim is to get the boys training on these grounds. The grounds will go first. Get them training on the grounds by Melbourne Cup week of 2012, getting ready for the 2013 year. So pre-season we would hope to be on the new grounds. As far as the building works go, we would hope to be sort of third quarter of 2013.
The other thing, Justin, just to add to on what David's said about our coping with the wind, of course, we mustn't overlook the fact that we're also going to have an indoor capability that we haven't had at Windy Hill. We're going to have a space that's roughly 70 by 40, or for those listening and watching at home, that's about 4 basketball courts. So on those days, whether it's in the middle of winter, or it's cold and wet and windy, or in the middle of summer when that hot northerly blows and it's 40 plus, we'll have a capability that we've never had before as a club to do a whole range of things indoor on an artificial grass surface. And that, again, is one of the elements that we've studied and seen from facilities, whether they be NFL or EPL clubs overseas, and will take us a step beyond the current provision within AFL clubs.
Sheridan Nunn has contacted us via Twitter, and David, she's wondering what you think of the fans' unity in the last 12 months. She believes that they've certainly come together in big numbers, supporting the club not only by coming to games but also through membership.
I totally agree with her. I think what we've seen over the last 12 months is everybody playing their part to get the club unified. I felt that over the last few months, I've actually never seen the club more unified right now, and I saw it firsthand. I sat amongst the fans on Saturday night. I sat behind the cheer squad, and it was a wonderful experience. And the fans are so happy, and I think they're really excited by what our guys are doing on field, and very excited about the future, which is terrific.
Just on that, Justin, sorry, I was just going to say, to reinforce what David's point, the numbers came through. We're already 10,000 up on our season-to-date crowds as against last year with 2 games to go. So, again, there's a lot of sentiment that David's spoken about and his own personal experience on Saturday night, but just clicks of the turnstile tell people are coming back to watch us play. Yep. And it's really, really important. Obviously, we've got a big game on the road this week against West Coast, but we finish with a home game against Port Adelaide Sunday week at the later kick-off, Sunday twilight. And it's really important that we get people there in big numbers to support the team, which will be our last home and away game for the year.
Yeah,
I think another example of that is when we weren't going so well this year, when we lost 5 in a row, the support the boys got from the fans, I think, was terrific. And I think that's been the message all the way through this year. We're looking for improvement, development in the list, and I think we've seen that this year.
Sheridan's followed that up with another tweet, just wondering from you, David, how has Hurdy's presence, do you think, lifted the club in its entirety?
Well, he's a massive presence at Essendon Football Club. I mean, he's spent most of his, or majority of his life there. As he calls it, it's his second family, and I think that's how a lot of us feel. And what James has done over the last 12 months in the way he's managed not just the list but also the people in and around him, is a great people's person, and there's no question that the boys are playing for him, and he's been able to create something quite special in a very short space of time. So I can't speak highly enough of what he's done.
Another question via Twitter, maybe for you, Ian, from Ashley Cole. What's EFC's progress with securing a co-major sponsor to replace Samsung and join True Value Solar as our co-major?
Good question. We're very active. It's one of those conversations and negotiations that happens largely under the radar, away from media scrutiny and too much reporting, because we're obviously keen to respect the confidentiality, but we have we're probably a handful of companies that we've got really advanced and positive conversations with, and we're hopeful that they will come to a head in the very near future. But we've been certainly pleased with the interest that has come, and inevitably with the team's performance, the level of attendance at matches, the number of people watching us play our games on television, augurs well for a partner. I think it's important that we also acknowledge that as Samsung depart at the end of the year, we've been very appreciative of their support, and we know they've realigned their strategies on a worldwide scale, but we certainly part good company with them and thank them for their contribution over the last 3 years.
Sound Asleep has contacted us via Facebook, and she's wondering in relation to the $2,500 donation, is there a way the club can provide an option for supporters to perhaps stage that over a certain amount of time rather than having to pay it all up front?
Happy to have those conversations. They should contact either myself or Dominic Cato at the club. I think what David's indicated is an important point, that we're really keen to establish the amount of money that the members are going to commit to, just as we're doing with the high net worth candidates and the prospects, if you like. But if it is a question of staging it over 1 or 2 years, that's something that we think we can really readily accommodate, as long as we have a clear understanding of the total sum when you aggregate all of those conversations up, Justin, just how that looks, because we do need to press ahead. This is not an option for us. This is about giving Bomber and Hurdy, Jobe and the playing group every possible chance of success moving forward, because I keep coming back, that's the one thing we all crave, and it's our responsibility as the administration, working closely with the board, to give them the best possible chance of that.
Just on the new facility, Neil Skinner's wondering if we'll have poker machines at the new venue, and if so, how many?
No, we won't be having poker machines at the new venue because it's federal government land. Part of the deal is that there would be no gaming activity at the Tullamarine venue, so that won't be happening, but certainly they'll still be there at Windy Hill.
A little bit off the topic, have you signed up the Davey boys or the Herd boys yet, in terms of the father-son rule?
No, I'll tell you what, we should certainly keep an eye on them. The James Herd Academy is something that we've set up, which has been terrific over the last 2 years, where all of the sons of past champions and Essendon players who've played more than 100 games are eligible for the father and son rule, and some of those have been training with the club, which is terrific. So I'm sure the Davey boys will be in amongst that, and so will the Herd boys.
And just on that point, Justin, David hosted only two Saturday nights ago young Joe Danaher, and disappointing that Darcy's career has sadly come to an end, because he's a young man of impeccable character and integrity, but a body that just wouldn't allow him to do everything that he and we aspired for him. But young Joe was our guest at the footy last Saturday week, and he'll come to us in the draft of next year. And I bumped into Longy today, and young Jake's going very, very well at Scotch. And of course, we also had Gavin Wanganeen a few weeks back, who has the choice with Port and ourselves, of course, and young Tex, who was our mascot when we beat Adelaide a few weeks ago. So it's a really exciting cocktail to have the past players around the club, but particularly those with those sons who might just wear the jumper, who knows.
Not forgetting Dustin Fletcher's boys as well.
Mitchell and Mason, very good.
On Twitter, Bob Smith's wondering if our membership numbers continue to increase and we exceed 60, 70,000, we'll obviously outgrow our home at Etihad potentially. Where does the club see that sort of situation unfolding in terms of playing more games at the MCG?
We've got a sort of a standard line we've been talking about all year, haven't we?
Yeah, Ian and I have been pretty consistent on this right through the year, and our view is that we have a great deal at Etihad. We're very privileged to have Etihad as our tenants of our home at Etihad Stadium, where we play our games. But I think it's clear that if we continue to grow our membership base and you have lockouts at Etihad, then that will force our hand to go back to the AFL and indeed the MCC and negotiate for more home games at the MCG. But yeah, right now, particularly on these cold winter nights where you've got Saturday night was reasonably cool, but to have the roof closed, was a great feeling, and it's certainly a cauldron, I think, where the red and black can be seen and provide a definite advantage.
And will there be any cut-off date in terms of donations being made?
No, look, for now it's an open-ended plan, but what we're saying, reminding everybody of the timeline that David spoke about, that we want to be up and running at this new site in totality by February or March of 2013, with the ovals in use from November of 2012, and so there'll be significant outflows of cash to build the facility, particularly in the second half of next year, Justin. So again, to the point of getting clear commitments from people and perhaps staging those things is something that we can certainly work with, but as long as we have a sense in totality of where we're going to raise the money from the various buckets, if you like, the AFL, state government, federal government, the high net worth and coterie groups, the members, and if necessary, that almost a bucket of last resort, if you like, but of debt.
On Facebook, Matt Pocot's wondering from you both what's happening with our clash jumper. He says he knows that a lot of the club's supporters have a very strong stance against clash jumpers, but he doesn't share this view necessarily. He's wondering where the club sits at this stage.
Happy to, in one sense, we have a clash jumper, which it's an interesting modification of our core jumper, of course, because it's still black with just a broader redder sash. What we've seen this year, Justin, is the introduction of red shorts, which gives some people all sorts of flashbacks, some good, some bad, about the way we looked in the 70s and the 80s. Yeah. But it's a conversation that is ongoing from the AFL. We continue to receive pressure from the AFL to be in the space where they have a jumper that they believe provides a greater colour contrast, and it's a conversation we'll continue to have with them. We're very, very mindful of the enormous passion that sits behind our jumper, and we need to only look as far as people like Hurdy and Bomber, of course, wore the jumper as premiership captains to know that.
On Facebook also, Johnny Raptolulis is wondering in regards to free agency, will Essendon be looking to attract some big players in the future?
Free agency is occupying a lot of our thought process at the moment. It's something that strategically we have to get ready for. And one of the moves, of course, is the new facility, because the ability to retain and incent players to come to Essendon means that you're going to have quality facilities. So that's part of the strategy, but obviously we want to be in the space where we're doing the right thing for our football club as far as putting together a list that can win a flag. So free agency is something we're spending a lot of time right now working out what the machinations are going to be.
I think the other thing to think about with free agency too, Justin, is typically the question always comes from the point of view of securing players. There's another side of that, that's retaining players. And that's why the importance of the facility is there, that we, if we're going to be talking to maybe 27, 28, 26-year-old players about how they could extend their careers by joining us, we've got to have those same conversations by definition within our own group, so that we don't sort of are guilty of taking for granted that this exciting young group of players that we have currently. And David Zaharakis playing his 50th game on Saturday night is a classic example of that group.
Lenny Kufel has contacted us through the website, and he's just wanting to know from you both, what's it like being the CEO and chairman of such a great club?
We're privileged on many fronts. One is to be interviewed by someone as renowned as you, Justin, in this media space. But I'm enormously privileged to be at this football club. I was very, very fortunate to receive a phone call and to spend some time with David, and excited about the move I made personally just under 2 years ago. And the connection and support I have with David is just fantastic. And so it's a privilege that I never take for granted. And I'm just so excited about what lies in front of us, and really up for the hard work that all of us have to commit.
On Twitter, Stacey Matsaris is wondering whether or not we could have a Fletcher statue at the new facility. Quote unquote, he's a legend.
No, I agree with Stacey. She's spot on. He's a wonderful, not just a wonderful footballer, a wonderful human being as well. So, look, we've started to do a little bit of talking about what we do to honour our champions, past and present. So, I'm sure we'll start releasing those plans through the course of the next couple of years.
Very good. I was just laughing at Adam Snell's message asking whether or not there's a problem with a 34-year-old man wanting to marry Michael Hurley. I think we'll just move along from that one and go to the next question.
Dustin Fletcher got his 5,000th official stat at the weekend. It is firmly entrenched in 12th on the all-time list. That was his 345th game. Truly incredible.
We've spoken a lot this year about improvement in development as a football team. There's been quite a few comments around when do you think we can expect a premiership? Can we put a number on it, or is it something that we're just continually working towards improving and developing on the field, and then the results will speak for themselves?
I think one thing, if you look at any of the premierships that have been won over the last 20 years, Justin, you probably find a playing group that are somewhere in the range of sort of 24 and a half to 26 and a half in terms of age. at about 120 to 140 games. And to give people a sense, at the moment we're playing a team that, and particularly if you took Fletch out for the moment because his age beautifully skews us in one sense, we've got a team that essentially is about 23 in its average age and about 70 games. So we are building. That's not to say on the one hand you want to cap what's possible right here and right now, and that's the beauty of not doing that, just letting the young group play. But I think reinforcing what David said earlier with the fans sticking to us, losing those games like we did to Collingwood and Carlton a few weeks back, in each of those games we played no less than 12 players 22 and under. So a real statement being made by the coaching group about the young men who are going to be part of this journey moving forward. The exciting thing is that whether it be McVeigh or whether it be Stanton, whether it be Fletcher, whether it be Andrew Welsh making a contribution on Saturday night, there is a very, very important role to be played by our senior players as well. So we're investing, we're growing, and just who knows what's around the corner.
Well, another question via Twitter from Sarah A. Samsington. She's wondering whether or not we'll be planning any fundraising efforts with the players in the future.
Well, there'll be a lot of fundraising, so I'm sure the players are going to play their part in that. We've got an opportunity to thank some of our high net worth supporters that have donated some significant money. So that function will be happening soon. There's certainly some plans once we get through the season, but quite clearly our focus right now is on the next month and a bit, and making sure the players are given every opportunity to do very well into September. So that's really the focus with the players right now, and all the work that's going on in the background with the new facility is probably materialise in the players' eyes post-season.
A question from Janan Hermes on the website. She's wondering, now we've got 50,000 members and we've reached that milestone, what's the target for 2012?
Well, we're actually going through budgets, and at the moment there's no doubt that if I can use a mountaineering expression, we've set ourselves a new base camp, and the challenge now is to lock in Justin at that level. Churn factor of members not renewing is a big issue for every club, and particularly here in Melbourne. And so we'd like to get to 60,000 very, very quickly. Whether or not that's going to be possible inside of the next 12 months, but certainly I think within the next 2 to 3 years, we need to get to 60,000 and then grow again. We know Collingwood are through 70,000, Hawthorn are nearly at 60,000, West Coast are nearly at 60,000. So that's the space that we have to be in. And the challenge I issue to everyone is that if we're a supporter, please feel as though you can make a contribution to the journey, both as a membership moving forward, and the renewal process will start for next year in October, November, but certainly also with the new facility.
David, I'll leave you with one last tweet from Ashley Cole. He says, as an EFC member, he's very proud of the direction the club is taking. Well done, gents, and looking forward to the future. Have you got one final message for the Essendon supporters and fans around the new facility and our fundraising effort?
But also to thank them for their patience and their passion this year. I think that's been a real highlight for me, that the supporters have really got behind not just the players but the administration, and we feel like we've really made material ground this year on a few things. As far as the facility goes, I really believe that this is a critical part of our history. If we and we won't fail, but it really is important that everybody plays their part in raising this money, because without this facility, and given the leap the game has taken as far as professionalism, which is huge, staying at Windy Hill in that facility, we just can't do it, because it will affect, if it hasn't already, our ability to compete on a level playing field. So everybody in this generation of Essendon supporters, including me, have got to own this problem and sort it out, and that's what we're trying to do.
Ian, David, thanks very much for joining us. It's been great.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks, Justin.
And to all our fans and members and supporters at home, thanks very much for being involved on essendonfc.com.au. We'd appreciate your feedback over the next few days, and if it is all positive, of course, we'd love to do this again throughout the year and potentially into the new year. So thanks very much for being with us, and we'll see you soon.